Hi, my name is Melissa Briggs, and I'm a Master's of Education Curriculum and Instruction candidate at the University of Houston. Today I'm going to be discussing portfolio pathways as they relate to assessment in education. As we begin our journey, I wanted to talk about a tale of two different students. The first student's name is Charlie. Charlie grew up with a rich background in education. He used portfolios to help him understand and to have an active role in selecting and revising his work over time. The benefit with this was that Charlie was able to see his work grow. He was also able to see where he made mistakes and go back and learn from those mistakes so that he became a better student and was better able to master different content areas. The other student we have is John, who also had a rich background in education. He grew up in public education and took standardized tests to help measure his academic progress. John was able to see when he did well, and he was also able to see when he did not do well, but the difference with that being he wasn't able to go back and revise and edit so that he learned how to grow from those tests. There was no way to make sure that he truly understood necessarily what he had missed. Which leads to our problem and what we're going to be discussing in this presentation. Are test-taking skills translatable to life skills? As we look at student achievement over the last 20 years, we see that there was a steady increase in student scores. And then we have a drop-off at about 2001 to 2003, which is when No Child Left Behind was instituted. And No Child Left Behind, as I'm sure most of you administrators are familiar with, is when the government decided that we needed to have curriculum that was consistent, and we had to have ways to measure that and support students such as English language learners, special education students, students from low-income backgrounds, in order to help with those students and support them in being more successful. But what we don't see depicted in this student achievement graph is those specific populations and how they are doing. So if we fast forward to 2018, only 62% of English language learners met or exceeded expectations across all grades in the state of Texas math exams. Economically disadvantaged students, only 61% of them met or exceeded expectations in all grades in their mathematics exams. And special education students, only 55% met or exceeded expectations in all grades for mathematics exams. Dropout rates from 2002 to 2003 were at 0.9%. Since then, they've increased to 1.4%. When we consider student mental health, we know that there has been an increase of dangers and threats within schools, which is why we have so many drills and so many routines that we establish to help keep our students safe. But the fact of the matter is student mental health is on the decline. If we look at teen suicide rates from 2006 to 2016, we'll see a steady increase. The blue line is illustrating the males and their increase, which is significantly higher than females. But the issue with this is that this only depicts ages 15 to 24. But adolescents younger than 15 have increased suicide rates over the last 10 years as well, and that information is not shown here. Getting back to the idea of how that affects with test taking, there are limited representations that give opportunities for students to feel successful with standardized testing. Writing samples are only really permissible on the writing star. There's multiple choice and gridables. This isn't giving students an opportunity to learn and to grow and to express their skills in different ways. If we look at what Howard Gardner had to say about this, his feeling of assessment is that it can be much broader, much more humane than it is now. That psychologists should spend less time ranking people and more time trying to help them. Gardner also suggests in his book, Multiple Intelligences, that there are 3 biases we suffer from. Westist, where Western cultural values are idealized. Testist, where if a human ability can't be tested and quantified, it isn't worth attention. And bestist, which centers our efforts only on the brightest individuals. So if we look back over that data again, are we really supporting those students that we originally set out to through No Child Left Behind and through these standardized assessments? I think that we can agree that based on the data, we're not. So what does assessment truly mean? If we look at what Merriam-Webster has to say about assessment, it's the act of assessing to determine the importance, the size, or the value of something. We're evaluating worth, significance, value. Our goals, of course, would be mastery, for the students to fully understand their content areas, to improve student learning and to improve teacher learning and how we teach our students. And ultimately, for both ourselves as educators and for our students to be able to apply the different standards and the different content areas of which they're learning to their real life. So I want to take a minute and have you guys discuss what comes to mind when you think of assessments. We might have had a lot of different ideas of what that could have looked like depending on if you went to private school or if you were in public education, from homeschool to Montessori. There are a lot of different avenues of which assessment means and takes that form within us. But what most students see now is the traditional paper and pencil Scantron before them. So what? That's the big question of why we're here. If we're really looking at the data, we're seeing, okay, that these standardized tests aren't supporting our students. We see that it's not working. What are we going to do about it? I think the difference between what it is now and what it could be is really drastic. Just because we've done these standardized tests for so long and we see that it's not working doesn't mean that it's what we should continue doing, even though it's probably felt familiar and comfortable. So I'd like for you to take a risk with me as we explore what a portfolio is and how that can be applied in assessment. So what is a portfolio? According to Merriam-Webster, portfolio is the selection of student work from papers and tests compiled over a period of time and used for assessing performance and progress. Which sounds exactly like what we're already doing in education when we keep student files or even just student work on hand to be able to assess, are they growing over time? A portfolio is just a slightly more formal compilation of that material. How do portfolios work? Well, first of all, the purpose of the portfolio is to assess student mastery. Another one of the benefits of it is that the student selects their work in order to include in their portfolio, which means they're self-evaluating, is this my best work? Is this what I want to showcase and include in my portfolio? And as students are doing that self-evaluation, they're revising and editing and deciding, is there anything else that I could do here to make this better? Do I need to make any adjustments? And there's a constant cycle of feedback between the educator and the student in order to promote the assessment of mastery, and that cycle continues. Another one of the benefits of portfolios is that it has real-world applications, which I know is a really big topic in education as well. We always want to know, how am I going to use this? Students are constantly asking, when am I going to use this? Especially as you get up into middle school and high school, students tend to start tuning out because they don't see the application portion of it. But the fact of the matter is that portfolios are used both in education and professionally. When people want to go and apply for a job, a portfolio is an excellent way to showcase your work and present yourself on paper. So this already sets students up to be successful as they enter into higher education, or if they enter into a craft or a tradesman position, to be able to showcase their levels of mastery. And below we have some examples of what might be included in a student portfolio. We could include student samples and pictures about their work. It can be related to math. It can be related to science as they're studying about different systems and cycles. You could include pictures or videos that could go into a student's portfolio, including writing samples and having them go back and edit it. Now, the great thing about portfolios is that they tie in with 21st century skills, which requires students of modern ages to be able to collaborate, communicate, express themselves creatively, and also think critically about their work. Portfolios tie in perfectly with that because there are plenty of options for students to be able to do that digitally. You're not limited to lugging around giant notebooks and carrying around even more totes of grading over the weekend. E-portfolios are an excellent avenue to be able to have students start applying those digital skills that are part of 21st century skills they already need to use through a variety of means. Some of the more common ones that are known are Seesaw, which also allows parents to be involved and to see how their student is growing over time. There's Class Dojo, which functions not only as a management tool, but also functions with the portfolio use now. And there's another one that would work a little bit better for older students called Squarespace. Now, these are all free to use. I know, a great word in education, free. But it allows students to be able to see that progress over time and to see where they should revise and edit in order to grow themselves as learners. So I have a video here that I wanted to share with you about a pre-K student sharing about their portfolio. So even though that was a very short clip about a student in pre-K sharing about their portfolio, I have to ask, does it demonstrate mastery? Does the student have investment in their learning? Do they go back and reflect? If we're looking at what this student is showing us here in their portfolio, even in such a short amount of time, they remember these days, they remember these activities, and they selected these particular samples in order to include in their portfolio. And as we know from teacher evaluation systems, the goal for us in order to be considered at a master level of teacher is that we have a student-centered classroom where it focuses on student ownership and learning within the classroom. Does this do that for them? And to close, I wanted to include this quote from John Dewey, who's one of the forefathers of education. John Dewey said, "I believe that the school as an institution should simplify existing social life, should reduce it, as it were, to an embryonic form." So I have to ask, are standardized tests doing that for us? Or are there better avenues that we could use, maybe in conjunction with that would work? And I would like to propose that portfolios could be the pathway that allows multiple students to showcase with excellence their mastery of content and simplify our already existing social life so that they are better equipped for their future.